Welcome back to the Real Estate Den. This is episode 16 with my friends Nathan and Denise. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for
Very
having us.
well.
Awesome. So we are here today chatting and reconnecting. Tell us a little bit about you, both of you. This episode is going to be all about lending, and we've got two lenders that I know pretty well myself. So tell us a little bit, Denise, about what you did before you got in the industry and kind of what led you to the wonderful world of lending.
I was working in a startup company doing digital signage. I was always interested in owning a business. And I thought, well, this is a good way to learn, right? To start in someone else's and help them grow it. And a friend of mine actually was going on maternity leave. She worked in an outside B2B job for a bank and talked me into taking her position. When she came back, she was going to move into a different position. And I thought, man, what a great way to meet. It was a small business banker position, and it was about getting together with small businesses and helping, bank products to help them grow, small business lines of credit, stuff like that. And then 2008 happened, 2009, and everyone in my position got laid off. And I was the only one who was offered a higher level position in the bank doing securities and lending. So I thought, okay, why not? It's a good opportunity. Never dreamed of working in a bank. I'll do this. The one part that never worked right as I grew in the banking system over 4.5 years was the mortgage piece. All my clients loved me, but they were frustrated with the mortgage process. And finally, out of frustration, I said, you know what? I want to learn how to do this right. And that frustration fueled me to go work for a mortgage company to learn how to do it right, to close loans on time, to learn more than what they would ever teach me in a bank. And that's really how it started. I just set out to be much better than what I saw on the banking side. And I've been doing it for, I think, 14 years, something like that, 13. Yeah, so that's what got me here.
Great. That's funny. I think frustration fuels a lot of us to get into this industry in some way or another. Nathan, what about you? How did you get into the wonderful world of lending?
Oh, I wish I had a better story, but for me, it was just good old-fashioned greed. Um, I had previously worked at 24 Hour Fitness. I was a trainer there. I was in sales there. Eventually became a general manager there, and that's actually what brought me to Colorado. And then one day, I had a guy that was working my front desk who later became one of my best friends. But he was working at a mortgage company, and he worked at my front desk just so he could have benefits. And he just kind of, you know, 24 Fitness was a great company at that time, great income. I loved the environment. The fitness industry was awesome. But he came in one day, and this guy was just such a joker, and he just kind of lived just a crazy life. Like, just came and went and worked part time at my gym. And he was actually the horrible employee. The reason I got to know him is because he would just let his friends work out for free, and he just didn't care. And then one day he showed me one of his paychecks for mortgages. This is in 2004. And I was just like, wait a second, how can you be making this kind of money? And then I met one of his buddies, and I'm not proud of this, but I always tell everybody, if you've seen The Big Short, there's a scene in that movie where there's these two tremendous douchebags down in Florida that they're talking to about how they do mortgages and all of that. And I'm going to give myself a little credit. I don't think I was that bad, but I will say that was probably 90% of our industry. We had no idea what we were doing. Mortgages fell from the sky. There was really no rules. I mean, people talk about it was the Wild West. It really, really was. The first mortgage company I worked for, I didn't actually fill out an application until it was payday because I just walked in and they put me on the phones, and I've always been in sales. Yeah. So, but I will say, in 2008, I had my son, or 2007, I had my son. And the next year, I actually left the mortgage industry because I was like, I cannot be this kind of person. I can't associate with these people because there was great people in the mortgage industry, but I didn't work for a very good company. They had some tactics that they used that were just not above board. So I left mortgages in 2007. I wish I could say like it was, I saw what was coming, but I had no idea what was going on in the industry. We just picked up the phone and sold loans.
Mhm.
So got back into mortgages in 2012, um, and worked retail for a little bit, and then I became a broker in 2016. Kind of, probably similar to what Denise was saying in the retail side, in the banking side, it's very sluggish. It's very cost heavy. It's expensive to do loans because of all the staff and the offices and everything that they keep on. So, I always tell everybody when you're working with a broker, I'm a small shop. My wife is my processor. We work from a home office. So there's literally no overhead. No one gets paid on your loan except for me. Right. And when I was working for these larger lenders, it was like, okay, my vice president, my president has to get paid. My vice president has to get paid. My branch manager has to get paid. My processors, my underwriters, my marketing gal. Like there's like 17 people that got to get paid on your loan. And it's just the cost of doing business. But by becoming a broker and switching to the side, we're able to pass that benefit. It's all the same knowledge, all the same products, all the same everything, but with just less cost. So
Nice. So that's you did get out at a very convenient time as well, for the little break there. So what,
you
so,
know, it was a really bad time to quit a job because I quit a job and there was no jobs available. So it was like, oh, newborn son, I'm going to start over. I did get lucky. I had a client that was in the telecom industry, so she got me. She had hired me because she appreciated the way that I worked, and it did work out. But yeah, it was probably not. There was zero foresight in that decision.
throwing the baby in the mix is always helpful too, right?
Yes.
Denise, what's your favorite part of being in loans? What keeps you here?
Um, I say favorite. There's two pieces. I'm able to run my business like a business owner. 100% of my referrals are self-generated. Um, but I don't have the overhead of having a small business. So it's like having a business without, that risk and that overhead.
Mhm,
I love, um, use a cliche, killing what I eat, right? Like if I don't work hard, I don't get paid. But it's when I do, have those great paydays, I know that it's 100% because of me.
mhm.
Of course, I have a great team behind me. I, work with a great processor, but it's really me that's bringing in the referrals. And I mean, the other part is I feel like I, I am making a difference. It's the largest purchase anyone will ever make. In
Mhm,
addition to that, when it's a primary purchase, I mean, that's your safe place, right? I mean, we're doing great things. Just being in the real estate industry, right? We're not selling caskets, we're selling homes. It's amazing, right? People, and if we do our job right, people love us. So I like to pull back the curtain. I educate buyers, whether very experienced or first-time home buyers. I kind of, even when it's time to lock a rate, I will actually pull back the curtain and show them what I see, right? All the different rates, the cost or credit for each rate, and then we talk about the strategy for where's your break even point, right? If you buy down the rate to here, where do we think we're going to have an opportunity to refinance? So I like the fact that I I do a better job than my predecessors, right? Than the people who frustrated me in the banking side when I started out. And I've realized being in this industry that I am one of those people that I hate to admit this, but like I think I just like I get 5-star reviews every time, and I've gotten to the point where I need that. That's like my baseline. Like I need people to love me and be happy with me in my job. Not necessarily like everything else, but just in my job. So yeah, I get both professional and personal satisfaction from taking those extra steps to really educate. I'm very nurturing too. I'm very protective of my borrowers. I have this like mama bear thing in me. And they love me back. I get excited when they get the right house, and it's fun. That part of it's really fun is being involved in that major, the most important purchase anyone will ever make, and playing a good role in it to me is really rewarding.
That's great. You said that you you have all of your own referrals that come in. Can you tell us a little bit like how you've built these referral relationships and what's really worked for you with that?
It's really organically just by having a good transaction, right? So a lot of times in the transaction, there's always a listing agent. That's another opportunity. So a lot of times I'll get listing agent will reach out to me and say, "Wow, my lender doesn't do that. Didn't call me when the offer was made and talk up the buyers and um, so it's really good transactional business that will make the buyer's agent and then sometimes the listing agent want to start referring to me, as well as um, the buyers that I've worked with already. They'll come back to me when it's time to refinance. They will refer their sons, daughters to me, their cousins, brothers. So that's really it. The one thing I'm really bad at my job is marketing. I actually don't call out to realtors. I don't sell myself. I don't pay for leads. I don't do any of that. It's just all organic. But that's what I'm comfortable with. And that's part of the reasons why I do need to have such great transactional business and have to get those 5-star reviews, because those are the loans that will come to me later on.
That's what you're using. That's great. Nathan, what advice do you have for someone who's maybe thinking about or looking into like how have you built your connections and your referrals?
I mean, really the same way. I did do lead generation for a while. I think it's probably the hardest possible way there is to do business. Leads are tough, but if you don't have a circle, if you don't, not everybody's good at networking, not everybody's good at social media, not everybody's good at marketing, right? So, for me, it's very much like what Denise said. It's I look at every single time my phone rings, that's an opportunity, right? So no, rule number one is answer the phone. And it's also it's funny, we're lucky that so many people are in our industry are really bad at what they do. Um,
And from the realtor standpoint, amen.
it is like it's one of those where I mean I'll get a lot. Like I have two rescues that I'm doing right now, right? Where the buyer, they were working with the lender. I have one. It's a veteran. They're purchasing. They're 2 weeks away from closing, and the lender had not pulled the veteran's COE yet, was just certificate of eligibility.
Great.
This is literally the absolute
You
first
see
thing.
Denise, she's like, "No,
First,
Yeah. Oh no.
first
that's
thing, number one,
crazy."
first
It's
thing.
the number one. When they say they're a veteran, awesome. Let's get your COE because
Yeah.
nothing moves forward after that, until you have that. But anyway, um, so for me, it's just number one rule is answer your phone. I learned that from not that it's it's something I've always done, but I think the first person that I ever kind of heard say it as like a business practice was Todd Bitter, who is a broker in our industry who's regularly $100 million a year producer down in Arizona. And it's amazing how that sets you apart. But then, it's like kind of similar to what Denise said, my job is to clients. I want that 5-star review every single time as well. I think that is kind of like, hey, we get paid, we do a good job, but when a client goes the extra step to actually leave that Google review, I'm not as successful at it as Denise is. I got to work on getting people to fill out the reviews more often. I probably get about, I don't know, maybe 30-40% of my clients actually fill them out. But that's where people find me, is on Google, right? That's why you have to have that Google presence. You have to have, when I just taught a class yesterday about, for agents and social media, right? You want to be present as many places as you possibly can, so that way people can find you, right? And then, over communication is really key. Luckily for me, my team consists of me and my wife. So I always tell everybody there's nobody aside from the buyers getting a house and the realtor getting there. No one cares about you getting a house more than we do, because getting you a house keeps us in our house. um, and so, yeah, the just over communication to the point where sometimes I've actually had agents be like, "Look, I don't need to know everything that's going on,"
I
and to me, that's a success.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think I'm speaking on behalf of all real estate agents when we've all and experienced that lender too, right? Like at the minute, and it's been interesting lately. I've noticed that there are just some lenders that just don't. try. Like there was like a client who was like, I really want to buy a house. And he's like, you can't do it this way. And he's like, but I'll do what I need to do to buy a house. Like, what do you need? You need a letter of employment. Like, and he's like, no, I think you need another lender. And I'm like, is this bro for real? Like, he said that to you, like in English, plain, like you heard it. Yeah, it's interesting too. And I'm glad that you guys are communicative and pick up your phone. That's important
You
in the
know,
and I think it sounds so funny to people outside of the industry when that's like a selling point, right? Like when agents are like, why should I talk to you about joining a brokerage? I'm like, because I answer my phone and that sounds really silly. But if you've been in the industry, you know how important it is to have a broker that picks up their phone. Like,
Hmm.
um, that's awesome. What do you guys do in the morning? I always like to ask about sort of morning routines. Do you guys have any specific, coffees, journal rituals that you do? Denise, we'll start with you.
I actually have a bad lower back, so I do yoga every morning. That's the first thing I do. It's basically,
Right.
yeah, it's just physical therapy for my lower back, and I love, 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 love coffee, but I try not to drink too much. I allow myself that 1 cup in the morning. So I really cherish my espresso in the morning. So, but that's it. And then I'll just kind of jump on the computer and, start checking stuff. Or I like to get sometimes a head start on working on some numbers before I start getting lots of emails and phone calls, and just kind of enjoy the quiet for a little bit. But that's
It's like a
basically it.
wonderful morning. Nathan, what do you do? If you
um, I follow. So I read Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning, probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I abide by that like it's a second religion. So I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. First thing I do is my savers. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, read, and then scribe or journal. But I'm one of those early. I get up at 4 o'clock.
You're
uh,
like Jocko Willink.
I
Are you a fan of Jocko?
I am. I've actually met him. I have a video that I've posted a few
That's
times
awesome.
where
I love him.
he talks about we and in my I've gone to the battlefield events that he hosts at Gettysburg and then also at Little Bighorn, and they're just phenomenal events. But yeah, I'm a like I strongly believe that having a structured morning structures the rest of my day. And what I really love is that by 7 o'clock in the morning, I've done 24 minutes in the sauna at 176 degrees. I've done 5 minutes in a cold plunge at 40 degrees. I've worked out. I've read. I've done all the me stuff, right? So like mentally and physically, I'm prepared and I'm ready for the day. And by 7 a.m., when most of the now it's funny when I talk to some people like I get up at 8. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm having lunch. but but no, I having a structured uh, morning is key for me. If I don't, like when I miss it, my day is just I don't know if that's a weakness or not, but it really just throws me off. I need to have that structure in the morning. And the Miracle Morning is just it's a phenomenal book. I think everybody should read it. And you don't have to do it like I do. I know people that do their Miracle Morning in like 8 minutes. And I know people that are like me and they take 3 hours. So it's to each their own, but it's a great book and it's a great system.
I'm one of those people that does a shorter miracle morning as well. I don't do 4 a.m. now with the babies, and that part of my life is I'm not able to be as structured as I want to be. Because if I can catch some sleep at any day, anytime I take it. But I've been keeping a journal since 2019. I always scribe in the morning, I read every morning, I meditate every morning, and I do same thing. So, and actually, you're the first person to reference this book in all 16 episodes. So I will send you an award for that or something because I had expected the miracle morning to come up again. I feel like it's pretty common in our industry, but if you
Well, I mean, he has a book called Miracle Morning for Realtors and Miracle Morning for Loan Officers, Miracle Morning for Insurance Agents. I mean, he
oh,
has like specific to the industry, and actually he has a new one. Um,
you better get a
I
free
haven't,
books for
I
this.
haven't read it yet, but it's called The Miracle Equation. So this is my next. I have a goal this year to read one book every week. So
Nice. So you've read how many books?
I think I'm on book 19 right now, but the 19th book I chose was not a smart, well, it just wasn't well thought out. I'm reading Money by Tony Robbins. And I don't know if you've seen this book, but it's the same size as the Bible.
Oh, great.
So it is, yeah, it's a long, it's going to take me probably 3 weeks to finish this one. So
I did that. I did a stack of books I wanted to read before my son arrived. And one of them was the 48 Laws of Power. And then the first two were really short, so I was feeling really good. And then I got to 48 Laws of Power. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna take me a really long time. That's a lot of laws. What are if you had to go to a new market and start over, if we had to put you in a new area, what would you do if you had to kind of start all over? How would you begin again, Denise?
Wow. I guess I would get out of my comfort zone with not calling realtors. Uh, I would use, I would leverage my experience and I think I have over 300 5-star reviews online. Um, and what I would do is I'd probably go onto a system to see who, kind of be really strategic in the net that I cast. And I would look for higher producing agents or a broker or someone who does real estate training in particular offices and say, hey, I've got uh, these programs. Is this something that could benefit your agents? And I would talk about my buy before you sell program and a renovation program just to kind of get my foot in the door to offer something. I don't really believe in, a lot of loan officers will call agents, hey, I've read great stuff about you. Can we meet for coffee? And I'm just not, to me, I'm about education. I want to present something of value, that could help them grow their business. So that's where I would start, is just actually calling. And then, utilize my network. If someone has, someone's own, who did you use? What realtor, if you were going to use a realtor, who would you use, right? And maybe kind of start there.
Great. Nathan, what would you do?
um, I have a. It's easier to work when you enjoy what you're doing. And one thing that I did a few years ago, and what I would do if I went to any new market, is I would actually look for, like, not necessarily networking groups, but like, I love to fly fish, I love to shoot, I love to hunt, I love the outdoors, and I would join and one for personal and for professional, join as many of those groups that participate in those activities as I can, because one of the things that comes up, in any conversation, when you're meeting somebody new. I mean, within the first minute and a half, you're going to ask people what they do for a living. Um, and I know a lot of, like what Denise mentioned. I know realtors. You guys just get inundated with phone calls, right? Can I take you to coffee? Can I tell you? Guess what? We're mortgage people. We all follow Fannie and Freddie guidelines, Ginny, right? We all have the same loan products. We all have that. There's really nothing special about us, except for who we are and what we do. And I feel like when everybody's calling the agents, right? You got the core, right? That training program, which obviously is a successful training program because they have some of the top loan officers in the country. Um, but that's just not me. I don't take kindly to cold calls, right? We get them from insurance agents, and when they call, I'm like, hey, are you bringing any value to me right now? And they're usually not. They're taking time away from me from my actual work. So, for me, just the term organically gets thrown around a lot, but I would infiltrate groups that share my same genuine, true interests. And then from there, it would just develop. Because I mean, here you can't throw a rock without hitting a realtor, right? So I'm gonna and those and a mortgage broker too. So I'm gonna join that group, and guess what? There's gonna be 6 other mortgage guys. There's gonna be 8 realtors, and I'm gonna find one of them. We're gonna hit it, and that's where I would start. Um, I don't know. I think it's a lot easier, and I tend to, I work specifically. Veterans are the group that I serve the most. They're my favorite clients. It's the best loan in America. There's nothing better than a VA loan. Veterans and active duty are phenomenal clients to work with, and so most of the groups that I tend to join and tend to go to are also the groups that my clients, my veterans and my active duty, also take. take part in. So, yeah, that's where I would, that's how I would start if I had to go start all over again.
I love that. And I especially like I recommend that to agents all the time as well. I'm like, if you don't want a cold call, which is fine. I liked cold calling. I did do cold calling in the beginning. I made like 30,000 cold calls in 4 months, but I didn't have a sphere and it did work, but it was brutal. Like I cried in the bathroom for, it just I earned those commission checks. And then, on the bright side though, when I would sit in front of a seller and they'd be like, try to beat me up on commission, I'm like, no, you don't know the amount of rejection I walked through here. Like I'm going to charge you what is fair and more than what I actually bring value wise. Like it's still a good deal for you, but um, that's awesome. If there was one thing you could tell yourself, go back and tell yourself when you started in lending, what would you tell yourself, Denise?
Get a mentor. And that
Good.
is even people that I talk to that are interested in becoming agents, or that they are agents at brokerages where they don't have a broker who answers their phone call. It is the biggest and best way to grow and grow fast and start earning paychecks. I the company that I went to, I was told that I was going to have someone to answer all my questions. It was a huge refi boom. I couldn't get his attention, and I wound up just I actually got a bunch of dead leads lists and called those people. And because I didn't sound like a computer, I was nice to people on the phone. I actually got a ton of refis from that by, but just saying, hey, we I work for this company. We did your loan the first time, and I feel like we're not doing a good enough job for you now because the rates are lower. Can we do your refinance? And they were like, wow, I've got like 5 calls on my answering machine. You're the first one I called back because I was just, really nice about it. But I could have done so much better if I had the mentorship. And it wasn't until my third year where I actually got a manager who was present and I could go to. And that year, the second or third year, I tripled my production, and it has never gone back since then. So
Wow.
yes,
What a
thank you for
testament.
what you do for your agents, because there are so many that suffer and they think, even large organizations like KW, they're like, okay, well, KW is taking a lot of my fees, but if they don't have that broker who's answering their questions, who they can go to, they're just not growing.
Mhm. Nathan, what would you go tell younger self?
I would just expand on what Denise just said. Absolutely. You need to find a successful and knowledgeable mentor, someone to work with. I think the barrier of entry for our industry and for real estate is way too low. It's too easy to get licensed, and the general public doesn't know. When someone tells them, "Hey, I'm a mortgage loan originator," they don't know that they've been doing it for 2 weeks or they've been doing it for 20 years, right? Especially with how the titles in our industry, I'm a senior loan officer. Like, okay, what is it? What does that even mean? There's no designation for it. It's like guaranteed. I mean, I'm going to talk about guaranteed rate, but they're a huge mortgage company, and every single person that works there is a vice president. It's amazing, right? It's like one of the biggest jokes in our industry that only we know about, but the general consumer thinks that, oh, I'm dealing with a vice president. This guy must know what he's doing. So I would say, one, yes, get a mentor, work under that person. Don't get over your skis, and spend time reading the HUD handbook. Spend an hour a day in the HUD handbook and the VA handbook 26-7. Spend time learning your craft, because what we do is not some little part-time job. It's the difference between someone getting into a home and not getting into a home. And I made mistakes early in my career that cost someone their house. I've never made that mistake again, but I made that mistake because I was told I would get guidance. I didn't get guidance, and I was just out there going, I think this is right, all the way up to close. Come to find out, I was wrong. I've made that mistake. I've had to look people in the eye and say, hey, you're not closing on this house, and it's my fault, right? And I don't want anybody to ever have to go through that. So new loan officers, they should absolutely work as an LOA. They should spend time with processors. They should know how a loan is from start to finish, right? How a loan gets set up, how it's going to be serviced, how a borrower has to go into a portal and set up their loan and their payments. And, we just spend time learning about the industry. And I just think there's not enough people that do that. So many people are just, oh, I'm a loan officer. I go originate loans and someone else is going to take care of my mess here behind me. And it's like, nah, you got to take this job a lot more serious. And you got to spend time like just studying and learning about it. And yeah, Denise is spot on. Find a mentor, find someone that you can learn from.
That's great. Where do you look for a good mentor? Like, where's a good place to kind of, I guess, start if you can't do like a company? I guess I'm asking because, like some people, maybe they feel like they have a lot of options there at a brokerage or at a company with a lot of options, or maybe they're sort of in a smaller area. Like, 'cause you don't necessarily have to have a mentor that works at your company. What do you look for in a good mentor?
For me, it's not necessarily like a high producer. It's I'm all about culture, and that's what my company is like too. We believe in a very high level of customer service. So I would look for someone who has the same mindset that I do, who wants to take care of their clients, educate them, even if it's not in the mortgage industry, but just um, yeah, culture, integrity, transparency, those things are really, really high. I don't have tolerance for people who lack those characteristics. I will not work with them. So definitely for a mentor, I want someone like that. So yeah. Um,
That's great. Nathan, what do you look for?
Um, I had a conversation one time with a gentleman named Todd Benson, who is a venture capitalist. He's actually a billionaire, and the conversation happened by mistake. But I took advantage of it as much as I could, and he had something that has stuck with me forever, and that is that truly successful people, and successful is not a measure of how much money they have, or like Denise said, it's not that they're a high producer, but genuinely successful people are someone that is knowledgeable in what they do, and they have a heart for sharing. They cannot wait actually to share the information. They want to help as many people as they possibly can. But most of them are guarded about it because so many people are takers, right? You just have the people that are just going to come and they're going to take, 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 take. I've experienced it myself. At one point with my mortgage company, I wanted to hire people, I wanted to bring people in, and and you pour your time, you pour your energy into people, and they don't. And it's not that they're evil or they're bad or they're doing anything nefarious. It's just the nature of most people is like, okay, hey, thanks, 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 thanks. Um, but availability is a big thing with a mentor, because that was one thing that I did that I failed at. Is I thought I was going to be able to like help and coach and do everything that was needed, and in the end, I didn't have the bandwidth that I thought I did, right? I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And so I failed some of the people that I brought on board. Valuable and very expensive lesson to learn. But with mentors, I mean, you got to, like you said, they have to have integrity. They have to have a work ethic. They have to have, I think transparency. A lot of people in our industry, it's like this, the Wizard of Oz, where okay, well, you can see all this, but you can't see behind the curtain, right? It's like, no, you gotta pull the curtain back. You gotta show everything. And if you can't do that, that's probably not the person that you should be working with.
Denise and Nathan, do either of you have anything fun and exciting that you'd like to share with our listeners for the rest of 2024?
um, our listeners agents
Agent,
or
real estate professionals, so they're lenders,
okay.
investors, and realtors.
I love talking about my buy before you sell program and renovation, but I think I would, just because this is kind of on a lot of people's minds, I think in a lot of rooms, it's the elephant in the room. The NAR settlement,
Oh, yeah.
my advice is make sure your lender has the same narrative that you do, because what the general public is hearing from the media is the settlement forces brokers to reduce their compensation. That's false. The settlement will, for the first time, allow sellers to no longer pay compensation for an agent bringing the buyer. False. There's so many of these, and I feel like the your lenders need to be educating. It's on us to educate consumers, and we don't need to wait until they're in a transaction. I think we need to get the word out with everyone out there that nothing has really changed. The fact that you can't read the broker's commission on MLS just means the buyer's agent has to call. if you want to sell your home quickly for the high and net the highest amount for that sale, we're still going to keep doing things the way we've been doing. You need to work with a local real estate professional who knows how to market your home, will get the most buyers in front of it. And how do you do that? You actually have to pay a buyer's agent commission. So anyway, so I just think that whoever you're working with, talk to your lender and make sure you're on the same page about what that narrative is that you're sharing with consumers, especially your referrals. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I actually talked with a group about this last week. It was one of the things they were interested in hearing. And officially, the mortgage industry does not have their statement. VA has said nothing. USDA has said nothing. Fannie and Freddie came out on the 15th on tax day and said nothing, but they made it official by saying nothing. They made a statement saying nothing. But
they are officially not changing anything.
yes, and I think Nathan will agree with me. I don't think neither of us ever see the VA allowing the veteran to pay the commissions, right? So we don't ever see that changing. So I think the big thing that's changed in our industry is the narrative, and we are working against the media. So let's all band together and get out the correct narrative to prospective buyers and sellers.
Absolutely, that is great. I'm totally
Yeah, because the media coverage on that was just
Terrible.
irresponsible, and just, it was terrible. My husband's like, oh my goodness, how is this going to affect you? And like my sellers that I'm working with, like they hadn't heard about it. So I just told them, I was like, this isn't going to change how I do business. This is what we need to offer so that we can get the most sellers in the door looking at your property. And it'll be before July, but I'm just like, the coverage was just, it was just so inaccurate, and just, it was just terrible. I was like, and then they're just making us all look bad.
And now you're having to defend what you've earned, like what
exactly.
And the lawyers made 33%.
Also explaining yes, I know. That was a cash grab. Those are the only people who are set to benefit.
And guess who's also going to make more money when the lawsuits inevitably come from this misinformation that doesn't match what we actually do? I mean, that's a whole episode in itself, for sure.
I think we're going to have some fair housing issues. I think the characterization of the settlement is that it is going to prevent that we were having I know, this is the way it was characterized. It was basically saying, the attorneys were saying, well, right now you're steering buyers to these houses. Wait, what? You mean I'm paying an agent and she's doing her job by steering? Wait, what's the definition of marketing? I wouldn't call it stealing. I'd call it marketing, because that's what you're doing. You're marketing. I want you, agent, for the commissions that are standard in our area. I want you to get as many buyers to my house as possible. That's doing their job. And now that you're not allowing it to show that on MLS, how is that steering? You're just making the buyer's agent call. But what's going to happen then is, because you've put this in the consumer's mind, media and attorneys, now consumers are going to say, oh wait, I don't have to pay this. And now you're going to see steering. When the consumer gets it screwed up, that's when you're going to see steering, and that's when you're going to see, in my opinion, a violation of fair housing, potentially fair lending laws, because they've just gone completely opposite of the way they characterize this. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm standing on a soapbox.
It almost makes me think that eventually it's going to be such a mess. They're going to be like, you know what? There really wasn't anything wrong with the way that we've been doing things the whole time. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should just go back.
What about you, Nathan?
I think the NAR settlement is not official yet. So right now, there's a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of assumptions. I think it's going to be similar to what happened when Dodd-Frank affected our industry, right? I think it's one of those that's going to purge a lot of some of the weaker agents out of the industry, which is a good thing for everybody, especially the consumers, especially other agents, right? I mean, I think we'll see. But in the end, I mean, if I had advice, it would be stay away from gimmicky marketing. Stay true, stay transparent, talk about what's actually going on, what's happening right now. You know, a lot of the people that were like the date the rate, marry the house people are eating crow like crazy. I thought it was a horrible tagline at the time. It was literally the most short-sighted, selfish thing I think anybody put out. And a lot of my friends and colleagues that I know were doing it. And I was just looking at it going like, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, just like I said, be transparent, try and be original, and stay away from that gimmicky whatever. I saw, you know, there was an agent that put out some stuff on TikTok that was absolutely not only wrong, it was almost like illegal what this guy said. And he's got like 80, 90,000 followers. He just made a fool out of himself because he clearly didn't even read the NAR settlement. But he's out there giving people advice on it. And I think what Denise said is spot on. I think it's going to continue. There's going to be some adjustments, but the strong will carry on. The weak will fall to the side, and we'll move forward. People will keep buying and selling houses.
It goes back to what you said about just learning about your industry. Research it, learn about it. Don't just take other people's opinions on social media groups and, as fact.
Yeah.
And I think they're like, I had an agent tell me one time, they're like, well, buyer's agents agreements aren't required. And I was like, they are for me because you need to have an agreement with you getting paid. Like, I think there was just a lot of, I think this will fix some sloppiness too. I think there will be some good things to it. You know, agents that didn't necessarily have buyer's agreements in place are probably going to write them. And if they don't, they're going to learn.
And here's a reality of this. You know what brought this lawsuit on? Weak agents that weren't earning their, I mean, here's the truth, right? So there's people out there not earning what they're doing. They're not putting in the time. They're not marketing properly. They're not protected. There's no negotiation going on. Right. And those are the weaker agents. Right. And then someone goes, and why did this lawsuit come? Because people felt like they were not getting their money's worth.
And you have buyers.
In the end, that's right. People, if you're bringing value, you're providing value, and you're doing a good job, no one's going to accuse you of not earning the money that you got paid. But, you know, I mean, that's
your buyer's agency agreement correctly on the buyer's agent side. Because when I got in, because I'm in 9 years now. When I got in, it was you would hear agents be so yeah, it's free for the buyer. Like that narrative that the realtors were saying was, I think, what was the big, because I remember my broker being like, stop, it is not free. The buyer technically pays for everything. And, just having, because like you're talking about low barrier of entry, it's also very low, like supervision. Dora's like,
accountability. Yeah.
supervise your agents. Okay. And then, like, I have all my evidence of supervising, and no one's asked me, and I've been supervising for 4 years now. Like, so I think this will be good in a lot of ways, but I do think in a lot of ways it will complicate things. But like just to echo both of you, I mean, absolutely, agents and lenders who are doing the right job, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and explaining the contracts to the buyers. Because if every time I've had this conversation with a consumer, it's ended very quickly. You know what I mean? It's a very easy conversation. Logic solves this very simply. Like, it's not hard to get across in a good way. Well,
patience is good.
Absolutely. So Denise and Nathan, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, where can they find you, Denise?
My moniker is Denise Does Mortgages. I'm at hmamortgage.com. Last name is Hosek, Hosek. So dhosek at hmamortgage.com. Everyone has my cell phone number. I've had the same one for 20 years. 512-577-5665.
Great. Nathan?
It's really complicated. It's nathaneinkornmortgage.com. My last name can be tricky, so it's EINKORN. But same number for 15 years, 720-980-9988. And on the socials, I'm like at Colorado Mortgage Broker for Instagram, and then Nathan Einkorn for Facebook.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.